action their parties will take to stem the environmental and economic impact of human-induced climate change. Mr. Albrecht.
As it relates to the greenhouse gas emissions and pollution in general, our government has taken concrete action on a number of fronts. The primary action that was taken by our government in conjunction with other G8 and G20 partners was in the Copenhagen conference, where we finally were able to get all of the major greenhouse gas emitters of the world to sign on to the Copenhagen Accord, which will encourage countries to decrease their greenhouse gas emissions. Our Conservative government brought forward a plan to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 20% by the year 2020. And we're also doing a lot of work in expanding the number of acres of protected land, our national parks. We've increased the acreage, the square miles, square kilometers of our national parks by almost the size of the entire country of Greece. Other areas that we're working on in terms of the environment go beyond simply cutting greenhouse gas emissions. The Kyoto Accord, which was signed on by a few countries a number of years ago, dealt with greenhouse gas emissions, but it did not deal with the pollutants that go into our air, the pollutants that go into our water and into our soil. So we need to take a comprehensive approach to our environment. All of us here want to leave this country, this world, this planet in better shape than when we came here. And so there's many little initiatives that we can do as individuals, but government has a role to play in terms of setting regulations, setting targets to reduce those greenhouse gas emissions. And I want to be clear that by reducing these greenhouse gas emissions and the other pollutants that are going into our air, we always need to keep in mind that we have to have a balanced approach. We could reduce those targets by 50% next year if we wanted to, but it would have a devastating effect on our economy. So we need to do it in a measured way that balances the needs of our economy with the needs of our environment. Thank you.
I think the Federal Department of Environment, when it was formed in the 70s, had a very impressive reputation around the world as an advocate for environmental protection. I'm not sure that's the case now. Some would argue that it might be a public relations department now. But in terms of climate change, I spent part of my career as a researcher. There have been some interesting research projects put forward. There was a CO2 capture major project in Saskatchewan that the federal government opted not to support. There needs to be more work done on the oil sands, and there needs to be serious discussion, as outlined in the Liberal plan, about eventually working with the industries of Canada and the regulators looking at a cap and trade system. In this area, the biggest ticking time bomb is groundwater protection, and there needs to be vertical zoning to ensure that the groundwater is protected in the region of Waterloo.
Mr. Ashley.
I advise everyone here to read the Green Vision created by our party several years ago, which outlines extensively how to get rid of the toxins that we're sending into the environment. In fact, Canadians understand the ending waste is good economics. Real solutions enhance the economy and the environment at the same time. While completely phasing out carbon emissions seems daunting, the challenge looks much less intimidating than we realize that more than half the energy we release is never used, but escapes into the environment as waste heat. The Green Party will develop a national energy retrofit standard designed for post-carbon economy that will reduce energy use in existing buildings by an average of 80% below the 2009 average structures. Develop timeless targets for raising existing building stock and new standards with the goal of retrofitting 100% of Canadian buildings to high-level energies. Thank you.
Mr. Bruce.
Yes, Graham, thank you for that question. It's very important. A cleaner Canada is within our reach. We owe it to our children to make it happen. The New Democrats will reintroduce legislation to ensure that Canada meets the long-term target of reducing our greenhouse gas emissions. We will put a price on carbon through a cap-and-trade system. We will establish effective programs to help Canadian communities deal with the unfolding impacts of a warming planet. And we will ensure that Canada becomes a world leader in renewable energy. We will meet Canada's G20 commitment to cut subsidies to non-renewable energy, and we will reallocate these subsidies to encourage cleaner energy production. We'll also establish the Green Bonds program to fund research and development in the green technology sector. And we will also introduce a national public transit strategy. We will immediately allocate another cent of the existing gas tax to public transit funding for municipalities. Thank you.
Thank you.